Good morning. It's September 1st, 2010. It's Wednesday. It's New York. The weather's beautiful as we sit here and await Hurricane Earl. Meanwhile, in the papers today, I'm reading that Afghan's bank managers are ousted. This Kabul bank in Afghanistan, its chief executive officer and its second in command have been making loans to themselves off the books. And they have been sending money out of the country using these unofficial money transfer companies called Hawalas, H-A-W-A-L-A, which keep no record of the money sent so that nobody can prove it. And it doesn't look too good. And here's Hamid Karzai and his brother Mahmoud Karzai, who owns 7% of the bank, and it looks pretty sticky. We'll have to review the article. Afghan's central bank forced out two of the top executives of the country's largest bank and replaced them with one of its own officials, fearing the financial institution, partly owned by a brother of President Hamid Karzai, is dangerously short of cash and could falter. Afghan and EU officials said even a hint that Kabul Bank might fall could send political and economic shockwaves across Afghanistan, potentially undermining the U.S.'s strategy for beating back the Taliban. There's one lovely group, the Taliban. The thing I object to the most is they're now starting to put poisonous gas into girls' schools to keep girls from going to school. The strategy hinges on building the credibility of the Afghan government and other key public and private institutions, including the country's nascent financial sector. Nascent. The country's nascent financial sector. Now, I don't quite know what nascent means. If I had to define it, nascent. Sort of like not prospering, not really working, not really functioning. Nascent. Let's all look up nascent and see what that word means. I'll look it up and I will post it right here so we all learn something today. Anyway, including the country's nascent financial sector, Kabul Bank holds more than $1 billion in deposits. Oh, that's it. People put in $1 billion, and then the bank can loan a tremendous amount of money based on that $1 billion in deposits. And so they don't really keep much of the money around. They get rid of it. Like banks, they figure that nobody at any one time is going to ask for $1 billion back, so they use the billion any way they want. And that seems to be the problem. $1 billion in deposits. Pay for hundreds of thousands of Afghan soldiers, police, and teachers is funneled by the government through accounts there. A run on the bank or a temporary interruption of paychecks could be dangerously disruptive to the war effort at a time when U.S. officials are desperate to show progress in the fight against the Taliban, officials said. The central bank forced the changes to Kabul Bank's management Monday after unearthing evidence of a massive portfolio of off-the-book loans by the bank's chairman to himself and to other politically connected Afghans. Massive portfolio of off-the-book loans to himself. Off-the-book loans to himself. Well, does that raise a red flag? I think so. One central bank official said Kabul Bank's liabilities could be well over 300 or 400 million, an amount far greater than the assets it has on hand. $1 billion in deposits, and they don't even have it. But most banks don't. All banks don't. They lend it out, and that's what the banking crisis was all about. They get $1, they lend 10 based on that $1. Kabul Bank's chairman, Afghan Farnood, was also ordered to hand over more than $150 million in luxury villas and condominiums in Dubai that he had purchased with the bank's money for some of Afghanistan's most powerful people, including Mahmoud Karzai, the president's brother, and a major shareholder in Kabul Bank, officials said. The villas and condos had been held in Mr. Farnood's name. Oh, well, there's a lot that is not clear and that we need to determine, the central bank officials said. I'll bet. Officials stressed that the central bank hadn't taken over Kabul Bank, instead choosing to replace its management in an effort to shore up its finances. Mr. Farnood and his chief executive, Khalilullah Frouzi, stepped down on Monday. The CEO role was filled by the central bank's chief financial officer, Masoud Muwaghazi. Neither Mr. Farnood nor Mr. Frouzi could be reached to comment. I guess not. I don't know what this is all about. We have done nothing wrong. The bank is prospering. We have handled it in the best way we thought possible. And those loans to myself off the books, I'm going to pay them back. Kabul Bank figures into a major Afghan and U.S. investigation into the new Ansari exchange, the largest of Afghanistan's Hawala money transfer firms, which have allegedly helped Afghan politicians, drug barons, and even the Taliban to move billions of dollars out of the country. That's what I like. But they don't keep books, and you can't prove anything. These Hawalas, they just move money out, and nobody keeps a record of it, and nobody has to know, and a bank doesn't do things like that. Does it? Yes, I guess it does. Kabul Bank has used the Hawala to clandestinely transfer almost $1 billion out of Afghanistan in the past few years. Mahmoud Karzai, the president's brother, owns a stake of 7% in the Kabul Bank. He praised the move, saying it was good for the bank and good for business in Afghanistan. He says the concern was that the shareholders' input was not part of the operation of the bank. Shareholder input didn't matter. There were no shareholders' meetings. Decisions were made by the two men at the top. The two men at the top. Whoops. He said in a telephone interview from Dubai, where he maintains a home. Now it's going to be more transparent. A second central bank official said regulators had tried to make the changes at Kabul Bank quietly for fear that a public rebuke of its management could lead to a run by depositors. Yes, it could. The second official, however, stressed that even a total collapse of the Kabul Bank wouldn't bring down the Afghan economy, which is largely cash-based and far more dependent on hawalas, such as New Ansari, than on formal financial institutions. In other words, everybody just takes their money, ships it out unofficially to other banks, and the decision to move against Kabul's bank management, first reported on the Washington Post website, was taken with President Karzai's blessing. I bless this takeover. A U.S. official sought to portray the president's willingness to allow the changes at Kabul Bank as a sign that the Afghan leader may finally be heeding U.S. and European pressure to take a tougher line against corruption in his administration. That's my man, taking a tougher line against corruption in his administration. Hamid Karzai. Okay, an Afghan banker with knowledge, an Afghan banker, an Afghan banker, an Afghan banker, a chug-de-boom, an Afghan banker, yeah. An Afghan banker with knowledge of the situation offered a less optimistic view, saying the move may have more to do with shifting political and business alliances among the country's small, clubby elite. Separately on Tuesday, 4 U.S. troops were killed by a roadside bomb in the east and 1 died in a gun battle with insurgents in the south, NATO said, raising the 4-day death toll to 19 U.S. service members.